Hi, and welcome to another edition of Newsmakers Journal of the Vaccine Year. I'm Jerry Roberts. It is Wednesday, April 14th, and I am very pleased to welcome to Newsmaker a fellow who's been making a lot of news in recent months, Rob Dayton, the Transportation and Planning Manager for the Public Works Department of the City of Santa Barbara, who joins us from his bat cave in an undisclosed location. Rob, thanks so much for taking the time to join us.
It's really good to be with you, Jerry. Thanks for inviting me on.
Rob was trained in urban planning at USC, go Trojans, and has worked for the city going on 30 years. He's a major player in policy and politics at City Hall. And Rob, I was struck by your self-description on LinkedIn, where you say, Rob Dayton specializes in applying wise planning today to guide the inspired futures of tomorrow. With a plan to stay only a couple of years, he moved to Santa Barbara to gain required experience. Now, captivated by the city's beauty, Rob continues a career of paradise management. Rob spends off-duty time helping men and women leverage their lives, creating a city on earth that looks a lot like heaven. Inspired futures, paradise management, city that looks like heaven. These are not the words of some faceless traffic bureaucrat. You're pretty passionate about this stuff, huh?
Don't we all want it to be that? And aren't we all in love with Santa Barbara? I seriously, I was gonna be like have my own firm in LA, and you have to get the government experience. I'm not a government wired guy, and but you need that to understand how the contracts work. And I just fell in love, just like everyone else who comes here. You just can't leave. You can't leave. And those that are tempted to and do it regret it. So, that's kind of really interesting way to start, Jerry, because it's my belief that although we have a lot of disagreements in Santa Barbara, it all comes from the same exact heart. We all want Santa Barbara to be that place that we love. And so all our passion and our passion to disagree comes from that same place. We're all on the same page. We love Santa Barbara. We want it to be great.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about some of those disagreements. I in the interest of full disclosure, I have bashed you on the show as being out of control.
I saw that.
Yeah, I know, on some controversies involving bicycles. And I just want, my premise was, you remember the famous comment by President Obama's chief of staff, who said, you never want to let a serious crisis go to waste. And I kind of saw you taking advantage of, our shutdown, the pandemic, to push through all this bicycle stuff that you just love. But let me ask you specifically about the three things that we were talking about. One is the Sola Street a bike lane, or as it's known, the West Side Paseo project. Public Works had a dispute with Historic Landmarks Commission and ended up before City Council. And there was a perception that you had rode roughshod over them. Tell us about that project and what happened to make it go to the council to be the final decision makers.
Well, it was actually a lot of things that led up to that caused a little bit more heat. And it's not the bicycle stuff that we're doing. I think the bicycles are a challenge because they're on the promenade, and walking and bicycling doesn't go well together. And so it's what we've been doing, and the let no great event go to waste is all about downtown was not doing well before this pandemic. And then we closed the street, and all of a sudden everybody wants to be there, which was shocking, actually. The first Friday we closed the street, to see all the families. One of the things that people would talk about is how do we get families downtown? And all of a sudden families are downtown in the midst of a pandemic. And then the creation of this outdoor space where you actually see Santa Barbara's again and again and again as you're going down it. The people who are ventured out and feel safe enough to be there, and I know a good number of Santa Barbans weren't, and so that's part of the equation. And then trying to, I think where we started getting to HLC issues is we're trying to manage something that's very temporary and in response to a pandemic, when the HLC and what they bring to the table is this rich heritage of an iconic Santa Barbara that we all love, beautiful spaces and buildings, and that's what they're at the helm of. And so this reactionary actions to try to save downtown businesses as much as we could created a lot of things to, they're temporary and they don't look so good. The parklets, schleppy, some people have said, the yard sale.
Right.
Go ahead.
But the Solis Street project was separate from that and had been going on for some time, correct?
It had, but the reason it's related to that is there were two instances at council where we did things on the promenade that we said, hey, this is not appropriate to take to HLC because of the temporary nature of it. And those, the first thing was the intersection improvements that we did, which had the green lanes, which people have mixed responses to. And the reason we did that is because of the complaints about bikes and peds, and the council wanting to respond to those complaints to try to create some amount of order. And instead of putting a bike path all the way down the street, which is really challenging to do and really hard for pedestrians to even see what a bike, can you imagine green lane all the way down the street? There's no way we would have done that. Just putting it at the intersections created some kind of order. But even then it's having mixed success, and it doesn't really solve the problem of pedestrians and bikes mixing.
Oh, and you said during that discussion, the hope is that pedestrians will remain on the sidewalk, but I don't get it, because I thought the whole idea was to be a pedestrian mall. Why have bikes at all on State Street?
Yeah, and that's part of the community discussion is what is the appropriate model in the future. So this is Jerry, this is what it is. We're trapped between two worlds. We're trapped between an experiment and something that's trying to be hatched in the long term. And right now, pedestrians and bikes don't mix. We called it a promenade from the beginning. So you say, well, why are the bikes on the promenade, which is a walking space? But then again, one of the keys to success is activity. And the bikes create a lot of activity that if you didn't have people on bikes on the street, you'd miss. So it is a balancing act. There are decisions to be made. It's not fait accompli. This is how it's going to be. We need to talk as a community how it's going to be. So getting back to that, so I think that was kind of strike one. Like, okay, HLC felt a little bit like, gosh, you didn't come to us on that and you avoided that. Then what happened was...
Rob, just to clarify, so I'm sure I get your point. So on that one, you're saying, we're trying to design the plane and fly the plane at the same time. And, it's just we're making sort of short-term decisions that maybe the HLC doesn't have the proper perspective on.
No, I don't think it's the proper perspective. I think it's if the council wants it fixed within weeks, if you want this done within weeks, then that process is not appropriate. I don't think it's, I value the HLC and everything they have to say aesthetically is gold for the city and they're very needed. When you're talking about putting something up for 6 months, at that time, we thought it was 6 months. Do you want to go through a longer process to get there or just put it up and then take it down? Because all the stuff that's out there is going to be taken down. It's all temporary.
Okay. All right.
So then what happened was the bike share, so in the way the bike share happened, just to kind of tell the story is like the scooters came out and I was like, my entire team, scooters are not appropriate for Santa Barbara.
They were just popular. them, right? They were dumping them for a while. Yeah.
They had legitimate safety issues. They have the statistics in LA are pretty frightening from a safety standpoint. And they cluttered the sidewalk. And so people were doing rogue launches. So we went to council for an emergency ordinance, and the council wanted us to create a micro mobility ordinance, which we did. And someone said, well, why don't you have bike share? How come you've never done that? And quite frankly, I never thought it could really work for Santa Barbara. We agreed that we would try it. We would do a process to see what we got. We did the process, and lo and behold, we get B-Cycle offering us an all-electric bicycle, a pedal assist fleet, which each one of those bikes is like $2,000. Sponsored by and backed by John Burke, which is the owner of Trek. He's the owner of B-Cycle. So he's invested in our community. He's a resident half the time in Santa Barbara. So it's backed by a Santa Barbaran. The success is backed by a Santa Barbaran. Whether he makes a profit or not, he wants it to be successful. That sounds like a good recipe to try to see if it might fit with our community. I'm not saying it does. I think the jury is still out significantly. We're just starting it. But here's where the rub was with HLC. Council agreed to and entered into a contract with B-Cycle for their product and their docking system, which instead of having bikes strewn all over the city undocked, this creates some amount of order. So, okay, that's good. The docking system kind of looks like a rack, so it kind of disappears. That's maybe the best you could do. And then HLC didn't want to have them on the sidewalks on State Street. So they said they're not appropriate for the sidewalks on State Street. And I kind of got it. I said, you know what? They're making sense. This is a pilot program. It may not be here very long. They're making a lot of sense. So we went to council and said, your Historic Landmarks Commission has a great point that these things are temporary and we shouldn't put them on the sidewalk. Let's put them in the street with everything else that's temporary in the street and just try them out. It might not work. Let's see how it works. And so some people took that as a slight to HLC, going around HLC. My view and my staff's view is we were honoring HLC, creating more temporary of a feel, and getting the council to where they wanted to go. It was a thread the needle moment more than it was let's just do it.
But then there was this thing where they wanted to hook up to the city electricity, and you said no, and they came back with the solar things, correct? That are 9.
Yeah, that's a different item. That's the key, the registration kiosk, which, you know, there's not many of those, and frankly, we've told B-Cycle in no uncertain terms we really don't want them. So we let B-Cycle, you know, vet those with the planning commission and the council. But in my estimation, it was not a part of their proposal originally, and we didn't really want it. So as a staff, you know, that part was like, okay, this is what B-Cycle wants. If the council and the planning commission don't want it, we agree. But B-Cycle made a play for it.
All right, but and then the other issue on that was, you know, it wasn't competitively bid, and there was concern, and I know Randy Rouse, who's running for mayor, expressed this in an op-ed, you know, that there's 3 rent-paying businesses that provide the same service in town. Why take business from these established local companies?
Well, it's a great question, and that's incorrect that it wasn't bid. It was put out to bid. And as a matter of fact, there was a local bike shop that was a part of one of the solutions, which was an undocked fleet, which again, Jerry, I got to say, I'm really concerned about bikes strewn about, undocked, falling over on sidewalks. That part really feels like it's not Santa Barbara. I'm not sure that any system is going to be Santa Barbara. We'll find out. We're just in the beginning of it.
Well, what's the time window on the B-Cycle project? Is there a set time?
Yep, 3 years. Yeah, 3 years that clock has started. They're a little slow in the waterfront and haven't gotten in yet because of the Coastal Commission appeal.
Okay, and again, to clarify, so they're not paying the city; they are providing the bikes as they're part of the agreement. So they're operating otherwise without any, they're not making any payment to the city.
They are making a slight amount of payment for our staff costs so that, you know, so that it truly is at no cost to the city. But the other thing is that it is in our general plan, and it's something that council's by policy has decided for years that they want to do. So, you know, I was being a little bit neglectful by not actually implementing that policy. And when questioned, I didn't really have a good answer as to why not to do it. And we said we would try it. And Jerry, if we hadn't gotten that proposal the way we did, I'm not sure we would be here at this time. I think it was the most attractive opportunity to give it a try.
So the other businesses did have the opportunity to get on that. Oh,
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we made sure everyone knew about the process. And like I said, we did have one bike rental company partner with another company to do it.
All right. So now we have the full context for you being mean to the HLC. And so now we come to the Sola Street project, and they say it doesn't rise to the aesthetic level of Santa Barbara, among a bunch of other things. As I understand it, one of your staff members said, well, you know, basically, let's just take this to council. So how did that go down? What is that project exactly?
I have watched both HLC meetings. I know there's been a lot of press and people talking about how, you know, I said this and I said that. I actually did not staff those meetings, but I have watched them at length. And I think my staff did a very honorable job in a very difficult situation. We had planned enough time for HLC to vet the diverters in one location. So this is Santa Barbara and Sola, Garden and Sola. The project's a longer span, but the part that was in the HLC district is just a minor part. Doesn't mean we can't talk about the whole thing.
And it's to connect the west side and the east side for bicyclists, basically.
Yeah. And you know, it was a past council that approved the bicycle master plan. I think only Kathy was on that council at the time, but that's what they did. And we've been working to that end to implement. We had room for 7 meetings for them to look at the less than 1,000 square feet of landscape. And so we felt like we had a reasonable amount of time for them to process it.
Them being HLC.
That's correct. And then the Historic Landmarks Commission, based on my view of those tapes, were right out of the gate, did not appreciate the project. Now, the part where they didn't like the function of the project and that it was going to make traffic, divert traffic. And so the part where I really have a passion about that, sympathy for that, is that it's just been a long time since we've talked about that project. You know, this project was hatched in 2016 as a part of a bicycle master plan, the most controversial moment of my career, where we had over 100 people commenting and 3 hours of comment. We had TVs all over City Hall down below. It was very controversial. This project was born out of that controversy as the solution. Many meetings, lots of workshops. So we went away and got the money successfully. And then we're at kind of the last part where we have these landscape medians that need to be designed, and we want to do it the way they want it. Parks and Rec had told us to, you know, they're really concerned about their maintenance of those because they're responsible for maintaining those. So we were trying to compromise between all levels, and the staff was willing to do whatever the Historic Landmarks Commission wanted us to do. So when they first started talking about the disruption of vehicles, we got them on landscaping. They didn't like the trees because of mountain views. So we came back the next meeting, and I've reviewed the tape in that meeting, and the staff is talking about they're bringing other landscape medians that the Historic Landmarks Commission had approved. So, you know, could be appropriate. But the tone of the meeting is really about the diverters and not being appropriate. And the motion to deny happened in the second commenter in that very early on the meeting. And then someone said, I second that motion. And then they decided to check in with my staff and say, do you want to be denied? And they said, essentially, if your focus is the diversion, then we should probably go to council to find out if council still wants the diversion. One of the questions was, has council seen this project? And that was a difficult question to answer because the council that approved the project is not the council that is currently sitting, save Kathy Murillo. So I think that was the third strike. Very difficult. And I truly believe, and it's no dishonor to the Historic Landmarks Commission, everyone has opinions on our board's commission. It all comes from a heart of wanting to save Santa Barbara and make it paradise. And this to them was antithetical to that. And it needed to go to the next level to find out. My staff thought we'd just be in spin cycle for meeting after meeting if we didn't do that. Was it hard? Absolutely hard. Did it put council in an awkward position? Very difficult position. Did it heal the people? No, we still have work to do.
All right. Before we leave that though, when did it get renamed the West Side Paseo project? Was that just like a marketing deal that you did, or what?
Yeah, it just trying to help people understand, because there's a lot of money for bikes and there's a lot of money for pedestrians. And the key components are bike boulevards. And that's just a kind of a weird term, bike boulevard. Who knows what that is? It's really hard to explain what that is. So the marketer thought paseos talks more about people and bikes. We have streets that are called, Paseo Tranquilo, Paseo, we have streets that are called paseos. And the idea was to try to tell a broader story. I think maybe it wasn't the best idea. Clearly people are responding negatively on the Historic Landmarks Commission.
Yeah, because all the other paseos are for pedestrians, are they not?
They are downtown, but we have entire streets that are called, they're named Paseo and then a name.
So did you pay some consultant to come up with this?
Yeah, we did. And, in public works, mainly engineers, communications, not the forte. And so sometimes it really helps. And, and I would say 90%, it helps a lot. In this case, I don't think it helped.
All right. Okay. Fair enough. And before we leave the HLC thing, I thought Eric Friedman kind of summed it up. He said it's not just about this project. He was talking about what we were just discussing. When it comes to a couple of other recent projects, I have concerns. We're minimizing HLC. We're an internationally known city. And if we start minimizing that piece by piece, it's gone before we know it. How do you respond to that?
I absolutely agree that minimizing HLC is a bad idea for our city. Our city would not be what it is without the Historic Landmarks Commission. I think what we are trying to tell council is that we also have a lot of boards and commissions that have a lot to say about our city as well. It's not just the Historic Landmarks Commission. So keep the roles with the right commission. And if Historic Landmarks Commission is within their purview and focused on aesthetics and the quality of downtown and the historic value, that's when they're in their lane, that's when they sing and we get the most value out of them. But if they start talking about, the Transportation Circulation Committee's role or other commissions' role, then it gets a little muddled and confusing. They need to be at the face and the forefront of this discussion downtown. They need to be, and staff recommended 2 Historic Landmarks Commissions actually participate full time. Council reduced that to 1. So from a perspective of staff, we believe very strongly in the Historic Landmarks Commission's role and its importance to the city.
As you talk about this process and how complex it is, I'm thinking that you had a restaurant at State in De La Guerra, right? The Brat House. And
are you reminding me of sore points?
No. Well, I'm just so. What did you learn firsthand? How the city process needs to be fixed.
So much, Jerry. I learned that restaurant tables and chairs move every single day, and there's no point of putting a plan to show where they are located. And I also learned that it's very difficult to get employees to place them in the place that you want them that are on the plan. So much, Jerry. Downtown, one of the biggest conundrums of downtown, which by the way, makes it challenging to close to vehicles, is that no one showed up at the restaurant until 12:30. I mean, lunch, I thought it was at noon, or maybe like if you're on vacation, you come at 11:30. No. It's 12:30. I mean, State Street really isn't opening from an activity level till sometimes afternoon. And then the closure midweek happens sometimes at 5:36. So if you're going to have a downtown that's closed to vehicles, that's not a recipe for success. You have to have businesses that can have employment engagement with citizenry from early in the morning till late in the evening. And that is the recipe for success with a closure. Otherwise, just like many streets in the 70s that were closed, this was the trend in the 70s, closed streets, even 3rd Street Promenade was one of those victims. You basically kill all business because slowly but surely the activity was not great enough or a wide part of the day enough to sustain business. And then people just stopped going and other people took over. And we've got to be very careful as we move into the future to keep our eye on the activity downtown and making sure that that is intact for successful closures, if that's what the community decides.
Well, let's talk about the future of State Street, because now we have this process that's going to happen in a committee and so on. I mean, it does look like a garage sale. So you're saying the first step would be to remove all the stuff that's there. Just parenthetically, does that include that awful paint, that awful green paint that you love so much, or not? And I mean, just give me your vision of what it might look like.
Well, I can't imagine the permanent would have green paint on it. So we need to go through a process. It's not just about the street, and that's why the downtown area master planning process has other elements, such as what are the land development implications of the buildings on the left and right. And one of the things we chose is we chose the same area from the freeway to Sola, Anacapa to Chapala, same area as the AIA chose for their charrette and their envision. So it's not just about a street. It's about a community downtown, a business community. The council has put as a very high priority, a living community. And what we've heard again and again, it's got to be designed for locals. It can't be designed for tourists. So this has to be someplace that is someplace you want to be, someplace you're going to see people without a scheduled appointment, a place that has a pulse to it that you can feel that's attractive. And it's not just about enjoyment, it's about doing life. And things like work zones and that whole thought that you can get now, was the millennials, now is becoming the Generation Z, working together in really exciting settings where you have maybe a gymnasium, you have a place to eat, you have a place to drink right there at the place you're also working and doing life with other people. So it's a much bigger picture than just paint on a street or what is the width or arrangement. It's also about what I call an earthquake 3.0 moment, where we got to reinvent how we do downtown, just like was reinvented 2 times before, once with the earthquake and then with the economic season of the late 60s and early 70s.
So essentially, the committee's functioning kind of as an ersatz redevelopment agency, really. I mean, that's the scope and the level of the change that you're talking about, correct?
I think you nail it. I didn't have that thought when we were talking about it, but I think you nail it. That is the RDA is a huge missing component for downtown. who is responsible for keeping their eye on downtown and making sure that we see what's going to happen before it does and then adjust along the way. That's what the RDA, the redevelopment agency, was doing. And they had the money to do it. And that really helped things work in concert with business and what they're doing. Not that the city knows what businesses should do, but should be a foundation for their success.
Yeah. And speaking of the money, I mean, again, the scope and the level of the kinds of change you describe is expensive. And I don't know, pick a number out of there, 80, $100 million, something like that. Where does that come from? Is that Measure C money, or I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
It could be. There's a host of different ways to do that. In my thought is that it includes 3 different types of money. Money from the city, that could be a Measure C. It's money from businesses and property owners, that could be a property-based bid assessment like they're doing on Coast Village Road. And then it also is a user fee, and that's probably in the form of parking fees. So there's probably 3 types: the people, the businesses, and the city paying at some level. And it's not just the cost, Jerry, of the capital improvement, which that is the plug number we have in the program is 80 million, but who knows what it's going to cost, and who knows what portion changes of State Street. It's also the running of that place. Like when we went to the boards and commissions, which was a brilliant process of just asking them, interviewing the boards and commissions what they thought on this matter. We showed them various streets from all over the world. And it turns out those streets have a pretty big operating budget to make them look and feel taken care of and actively done, so that you don't have to wonder, who's picking up the trash, who's engaging with the homeless in a compassionate but responsible way. That is all built in to the costs.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about the community development department, if you will, some of the issues that have been had and why you're interested in leading that department?
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess you're bringing up that I applied for that, and I guess that rumor's out there. That rumor would be true, and I
would call it an open secret, actually.
Okay, open secret. That's okay. That's interesting. Yeah. So I mean, for me, I'm at the end of my career. I'm at 30 years, and like you read off my LinkedIn page. I do believe Paradise Management is the staff role here. And I believe that, and I think it says that on my LinkedIn page, I believe that the quality of the staff should emulate the environment they manage. It's got to be really high quality. And so, I did that not because I want the headache. That's extremely controversial, extremely stressful role. And whoever gets that, bless them. We want to support them to the highest extent possible so that they have a lighter load. I was willing to do it because this city is that important to me. And we've had success in public works about how to get the staff to a higher quality of civic service. As civic servants, the traditional name for them implies. And so, yeah, I was willing to do that. I'm not that guy. I totally get why I'm not that guy. I think what people are looking for is someone from outside who has some, good ideas or has done it already in another community and been successful and has a proven track record. And then that always is done on balance with, do you know Santa Barbara? Yeah. Do you remember George Girth?
Yeah.
George Girth. So George Girth, so I was hired by Dave Davis and George Girth. That was my interview panel. And once I got hired, George said, hey, you're probably not even going to be effective for 2 years, just to let you know. And you'll probably really understand Santa Barbara in 5. And I was like, what? And, I just didn't get that. And it used to be at the dais in the council chamber, when you came up and you gave your 2 cents from the public, you had to say, I'm such and such, and I've been in Santa Barbara for a number of years, if 15 or more years didn't come out of your mouth, it's like the council did a collective eye roll and okay, we don't care what you have to say because you don't know about Santa Barbara. Think, Jerry, how much that has changed. We have a transient population. We're on a top 10 list in America where people are coming to Santa Barbara constantly with their nest egg, where they're going to spend the last season of life. And now we have a big issue. We have to actually teach them how to Santa Barbara so that they don't use their influence to bring the culture or the style of city that they just came from, which is, I find, inherently what people want to do.
Yeah. Well, first of all, take it easy on that last season of life. But I've only been in Santa Barbara for 20 years. Let me say that first. But as someone who came here, you know, for a job, a big job in a big institution, it's really difficult. I mean, the culture is sui generis. I mean, it's singular. There's not another place like it. And particularly given the problems, you know, the chronic problems of the community development department, it seems to me that having someone from here makes more sense. But you know, I'm just an old man yelling at clouds. So whatever that's worth. Hey, what did you think of that LA Magazine piece that kind of trashed City Hall?
I don't know. I'm in the dark. I have no idea. It's just like any other thing that you wake up and you're like, WTF, what is that about? You know, I you know, have worked really close with Anthony, and I just don't get that. I don't feel that. I don't sense that. You know, I have a lot of belief in the people's hearts that are leading from the top. I know they have pure hearts. I know they feel the same way, similar things about Santa Barbara that I do. I don't know. Yeah.
Did you talk to Krigman? Did he interview you for that piece? Were you
No,
never talked.
I have been interviewed for a separate piece that was out of the Montecito Journal. I think it was like the first or second one. And I think I'm quoted in that one. That's the only time I've talked to that gentleman.
Okay. All right. How do you think Paul's doing? I mean, this has been an extraordinary time, you know, the pandemic, the meltdown, the anti-racism protests, you know, then he gets hammered with a piece like this, you know, everything's awful. How do you think he's doing in managing the city?
Amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, look at what you just said. I mean, to be a city manager, first of all, is a really crazy job. I would never, ever want. But, you know, it's a step up from community development director in the terms of the pressure. Paul is wired to handle the common ground, to find the common ground thread between the 7 council members. He's wired for that. He's really, really good at that from a natural talent standpoint. He sees common ground where other people don't see it. Naturally, that's what he does. So for those people in the community who don't like Paul's style, I would just say to them, be careful what you wish for, because he keeps the council headed in a unified direction where he knows that they can go. And he's not going to go somewhere where the 7 members can't go. And that's why the city managers who bring only their ideas and not their common ground expertise to councils get fired within, I think it's like 2.7 years is the average city manager lifespan of leaders that have that style. Paul is not that way. And you just listed an extreme number of circumstances that are incredibly hard, and that he has taken on again and again and again. And you know, the people of the city of Santa Barbara, the staff of the city of Santa Barbara is with him in terms of wishing him well to endure those things, because he does it well.
Yeah. But I got to ask you, I mean, one of the other things that's been going on is that Mr. St. George, Ed St. George, the developer, has been kind of openly campaigning to get rid of him. I know you have a friendship with Ed. Is that awkward for you to have to? How do you balance that?
Oh my gosh, yeah, that's completely awkward and discomforting. And this is back to where we started. It's all about us having the same heart for this town and how we respond to that passion for this town. And that's what Ed's doing in the way Ed thinks is best. And, he's got good ideas. He's great at what he does. I remember watching him, back in the day with the same outfit he's got on today, coming into Public Works, 630 Garden Street, getting those permits himself, doing the building himself in those homes and building what he has built today. And you got to love and appreciate that. And everyone's got a different perspective. And so I get it. I've got 7 different perspectives like Paul does on council. They're very different. They have very different beliefs, all from the same passionate heart to want to see this city succeed. So what I do is I look at the heart and I say, yep, that's exactly what I expected to see. You love Santa Barbara. And I think it's poisonous for this town to summarily reject a person because you disagree with the action they want to take to get to the same result as you also want, which is the town managed well. And so, yes, it's awkward, but there's many, many relationships that I have to dance between that have very strong differences on how to move forward. That's just par for the course as a city employee.
All right, last question. One of the interesting things in that LA Magazine piece that I found intriguing was that you all have these management retreats and you do these, questionnaires about your management style and stuff. So Paul emerges as harmony. What was yours? What was your word that came out of that?
Futuristic activator.
Oh, futuristic activator. That's terrific. That's great.
Yeah, so it's the natural talent ability to see the future and then want to take action now to get us to that perfect future.
Oh man, that's a great place to leave it. I really appreciate it very much. Rob Dayton, thanks so much for taking the time to come on and speak with us about these controversies. I promise I'll try to be nicer. And
thanks, man.
I'll talk to you. All right.
Appreciate it, Jerry.
Stay safe.
Thank you.